Hi, I'm Anthony from Sydney Backyard Veggies. I'm over at my main patch, and just behind me I've selected this spot to go plant out my season's eggplants. I've been growing my eggplant seedlings for about 2 months now and out of time, ready to go out. I'm looking at planting 6 seedlings in this spot today, and the variety I'm planting is called Monacasa, and this gives out the large style eggplants. These are my seedlings that I've got growing at the moment, and these have been potted up, repotted once, and now they are more than large enough to be planted out. So I'm really looking forward to getting these in the ground. So what I've done in the patch that I was going to plant it, I've gone and dug it over just to really break down those clogs. It's actually quite compressed soil in that space, and what I've done is I've added a full barrel load of horse manure compost, and I've spread that out, and now I'm ready to start planting out my seedlings. So I'm going to take you along and show you how I'm going to plant out these seedlings in this location. So eggplants are quite big plants and they take up a lot of space, so I like to provide 80 centimeters between my plantings, and I'm looking at doing 2 rows down this bed. Probably 40 centimeters away from the basil here, and then go another 80 centimeters for eggplant. So what I'm doing is just making sure that the ground is quite level, relatively level, and then taking my first row, I'm using my trench technique. So I'm going to be planting these in trenches and just coming across. So here I've done my first trench. So coming back here, second row, 1, 2, dig the second row 80 centimeters away, and again just put it in my second row. There you have it, 2 rows 80 centimeters apart. Now I'll come over and plant my seedlings. Just to plant these seedlings, I'm just going to dig a hole. Now pretty much put it to the base of the plant, but I find that eggplant, like tomatoes, don't mind being buried a little bit deeper, and what I'll do later is I'll actually come through and heal these eggplants like I did to my tomatoes in my previous videos, and that, again, they do grow additional roots along the plant. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove these lower leaves, and then just bringing it out. As you can see, that's looking perfect. Just going to put it in the hole, and just at this stage just hold the soil around it and squeeze it firmly down, and that is done. Now I will water this in and I will stake it in a couple of weeks time, but that's good to go. I will go and plant the plants in the rows. I'm going to try to look at planting them probably 60 to 70 centimeters apart in the rows, and the rows are 80 centimeters apart, just to give them a little bit of extra space to grow. So I've just finished planting out those eggplants, and now I've got 6 in the bed, planted them out 70 centimeters apart in the rows, at rows 80 centimeters apart. So now I'm going to give them water in now, let them settle in, and in about 2 weeks to 3 weeks I'll start staking them, and I'll go through the fertilizer that I use to help these plants along. Like tomatoes, eggplant love a lot of potassium, so I'll be giving their first potassium feed using potash in probably about 3 or 4 weeks time, and I'm expecting a harvest from these plants probably late December. So I'm happy they're in the ground now, and yeah, I'll go see what else I can plant now in the patch. just out here in my patch at the moment. It's quite warm today, over 30 degrees. So I'm just going to try to do a bit of work in the shade, but at the moment I'm going to come over here and harvest some of my spring cabbage. I've had an order in for 3 heads from the family, so I'm going to come through and harvest some of those. But what I want to do is I want to show you my cabbages at the moment. Something that's really surprised me is that they've been able to handle the heat that we've been having over the last few months, September and October, and surprisingly this variety hasn't bolted yet. It just seems to be putting on a lot of extra size. So I'm going to come and show you how they're going at the moment and then harvest a few for the table. Just as a recount of my patch, this bed here had in the order of 20 cabbages, and they were planted out in late May, if I remember correctly. And this variety here is called Green Coronet, and as you can see, they put out a really nice head, but it's not, the key here I'm finding is that they're not bolting. We're already in mid-October, and what they're doing is they're actually putting out really, they seem to be getting bigger and bigger. They are struggling a bit, the back ones are struggling a bit with the sun. This is a very warm spot, but I've been progressively harvesting in this bed here, but also the main bed that I've got over here. I've been harvesting these for a while now, and again I am not having any issues as such with plants bolting, which is excellent. So if you want to look at trying to grow something cabbage in spring, the Green Coronet's a really good one to try. So I'm going to go and harvest 2 of the heads over there, but this head here I might actually even harvest this one. This one looks perfect. I'll come through and harvest this one, and I'll go and harvest another 2 from that other patch. There you go. Can see, go and get the other 2 from the other bit, and we'll go clean them up. There you go. So cabbage, see right there. With every cabbage harvest, the key is to see what the head looks like after you remove all the external leaves. So just going to go through, rip these all out. Not as large as I was hoping. I thought it felt a bit bigger, but that's okay. I need to work through that patch anyway. But there you go. Beautiful. Again, really firm. No real sign of bolting. This could have taken probably another 2 weeks or so, but I need to clear that bed. I want to get some other summer veggies in that spot. So I'm going to cut that bit off. Just give it a little wash just to freshen it up a bit, because the weather today is actually quite warm and it's starting just to wilt a bit. Finish up the rest of them and I will show you what I've ended up with. So this is my harvest, 3 heads, as you can just see that. Beautiful. I keep getting asked a few questions about how I keep the cabbage moths and the slugs off them. Cabbage moths, pretty easy. Funny enough, any contact sprays, even homemade white oil, pyrethrum, works wonders against cabbage moths. They are quite safe, especially homemade white oil. It's just, it consists of vegetable oil and a bit of dishwashing detergent. It's actually really safe to use. So for slugs, as long as it's not raining, generally speaking, I don't get many slugs in my patch. I have been trying to make sure I make my garden as non-slug friendly as possible. I will use slug pellets. I can in my context. I don't have pets that will get to them, but again, the key for cabbages is you need to try to control the slugs before the head forms, because once the slug gets into the head, it's almost impossible to deal with. But I've still got a lot of cabbage to go through. I'm going to take these through now, give them a quick wash, take them to the family and see what else there is to do in the patch. So I'm over at my patch today and I'm excited to say I'm going to be harvesting the first of my summer veggies. These are my bush beans that I planted out adjacent to the tomatoes, I would say as seedlings in early September. and they are now ready for harvest. So I'm really excited about that. I've got one row of bush beans here. The variety is called Jackson. They're the French bean variety, what we call the round stringless beans. And I'm going to go through and see what I can harvest at the moment, and yeah, show you how big my crop is. So these plants are my bush beans. They're looking really good. They've just put on their first crop, as you can see there. They've got some really nice beans coming up. Now, I like to pick them at this size. I like to pick them a bit earlier for two reasons. One, it encourages that second flush of flowers. I'll probably want to try to get at least 2 flushes out of these plants, but also it also makes sure that they're not as make sure they're tender when you harvest them. So I'll just pick one off. You can see there, it's a really nice length of style bean, really straight. Jackson is my go-to variety. I do plant another one called Jade. That variety is actually a bit harder to get seeds for, but this season I decided to plant Jackson because I had bought some seeds from last year, and they're actually quite a good producer. So I'm going to come through and start harvesting what I can and see what I end up with. As I'm harvesting these, you can just see the amount of crop on these beans. There you go, beautiful. So I'm going to harvest a lot of these now. Absolutely full. Okay, the more you pick, I find with bush beans, the more they produce. So you try to get on top of those harvests early to encourage them to, and that's my harvest there. So perfectly straight, clean beans, so really happy with those. So I just finished harvesting those beans, and this is my crop. I've got close to probably at least half a kilo of beans here, so I'm really happy with that. And they actually are, if you can see that closely, they're actually quite clean and relatively straight. I mean, Jackson is a commercial variety that they use in the fresh bean market, and they do generally do quite well. I do have a strong preference for Jade. If you ever do see Jade seeds, please give them a go. They're a really great bean. But yeah, these ones are quite productive. I only harvested half the crop. There's still at least another half to go, and I'll probably harvest them later in the week. A lot of flowers still showing in the plants as well, which is really great. What I'm going to do now is go through and give these just a soak in water, just to get that heat, that sun heat, the heat of the sun off them, just to make sure that freshen them up and make sure they're good for storage. These personally will be eaten tonight for dinner. We'll steam these, lightly steam these, and these will be eaten with our meal. But if you are going to store these in the fridge, I tend to give them a wash, dry off the excess water, wrap them in a paper towel and put them in a bag in your crisper, and they will last, especially if you look after them at point of harvest. Really happy to have started harvesting summer veggies. I usually tee my bean production to line up with the last of my broccoli, but this year I was lucky enough that my broccoli still hasn't been harvested yet, so my family will be eating both broccoli and green beans for dinner over the next couple of weeks, so really happy with that. But thank you very much everyone for joining me in this video. I really appreciate your support. I hope you enjoyed watching me work in my patch, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.